Dive watches might be the most competitive category in all of watchmaking, and there are so many solid options for any price point. So today we are going through the best dive watch options at every budget, from under $1,000 all the way up to $20,000, but trying to keep it more in the affordable arena. Some are icons, some spec beasts, and enthusiast favorites. Let's start with my favorite, the Seiko Prospex SPB 453 62 Mass Heritage. This is a recent Seiko evolution of the 62 Mass, Japan's very first dive watch from 1965. Compared to previous generations, Seiko quietly fixed a lot of enthusiast complaints with this update. It's slimmer, wears smaller, upped water resistance to 300 meters, and improved movement to the caliber 6R55, which is the latest self-winding movements designed for their mid-range watches. This isn't the cheapest watch in this section, but if someone asked me to buy a diver sub $1,000, this would probably be it. The Citizen Promaster has always been in the value-orientated conversation. This is nothing new, but they've recently made this watch smaller, now at 40.6 millimeters in case diameter, down from 44 millimeters, and I think it's now impossible to ignore. Design-wise, this is a pretty classic diver, highly legible dial display, 60-click rotating dive bezel, screw-down crown, and date at 3 o'clock. Baltic managed something very few micro brands achieve. They created a design that genuinely feels timeless and not derivative of anything else. The Aquascaphe has beautiful proportions at 39mm in case diameter, a thickness of 13mm including the crystal, lug to lug of 47mm. These are the golden proportions. This is what a lot of people are looking for. 200 meters of water resistance, and it's one of the cleanest vintage-inspired divers you can buy. I recently made a video about the 20 best watches under $1,000. I didn't put Certina in there. In the comment section, did not hold back. So here am I, repenting for my sins, the Certina DS Action diver, probably one of the best spec per dollar watches available. So my recommendation will probably be the 40.5mm variant, but also available in 38 if you're looking for something smaller. So a 40.5mm case diameter, of course, 14.1mm thickness, and a lug to lug of 48.1mm. Really good stuff. Water resistance of 300 meters and powered by the Powermatic 80 automatic movement, which is based on the ETA 2824. Few dive watches have as much personality as the Turtle. I feel like this is one of the most lovable watches in the world, and it is responsible for creating many of watch geeks. I would recommend the reference SRPE 93 specifically, so giving 200 meters of water resistance, a unidirectional bezel, and powered by the caliber 4R36 with 41 hours of power reserve. It's kind of odd looking, it shouldn't work but it does, still feeling rugged and fit for purpose. I think this is one of the strongest options out there. Moving up the scale in terms of prices, $1,000 to $5,000, this is my favorite area to play at the moment, and I think it's where the most value is found. Of course, we have to start the section with Tudor. I really think the Tudor Black Bay 58 is responsible, or is at least partially responsible, for the mid-century design trend we've been seeing. Perfect proportions with a 39mm case diameter, 11.7mm thickness, 200 meters of water resistance, and it's a line Tudor keeps making better. So at Watches and Wonders this year, they added META certification to the movement, the caliber MT400-U, 65 hours of power reserve, and now with the T-Fit clasp providing on-the-fly micro adjustment. I think it's a no-brainer, but I would think that, of course. This is right on the edge of this budget category, if buying new, ranging from $4,975 to $5,350, but can be bought pre-owned for about $3,000 to $4,000 depending on condition. For me, the Tudor Pelagos collection has come to define this category. This is their industrial diver, their professional grade diver. These have proper specifications at a very good price. So the classic Pelagos has a titanium case and bracelet material, ceramic, matte blue or black bezel insert, I just like the blue the most, and one of the coolest clasps on the market. Water resistance to 500 meters, and powered by the MT5612 COSC certified movement. I don't know how anyone can argue with this. banger, but they do have other options as well. I'm thinking of the Pelagos 39. So smaller size, same aesthetic. You do sacrifice some of the industrial tools like the clasp and water resistance coming down to 200 meters, but a much more practical watch. The Pelagos FXD is an enthusiast favorite, so the original commemorated Tudor's unique relationship with Marine Nationale or the French Navy. Everything was built for its unique purpose, so bidirectional bezel, designed for underwater missions, fixed lugs for maximum security, and 200 meters of water resistance. I think this is possibly the coolest watch in their catalog. The only other one where you might have an argument for it being cooler is the Pelagos Ultra. So this really goes back to the roots of the Pelagos, the first watch we talked about in this section. Industrial diver, big specs, beefy spec beast, but now taking it to 1,000 meters of water resistance. We are going to cover two Longines on here. Let's start with the Legend Diver 39. So this is the more geeky choice, a bit more niche. Great specifications with a 39mm case diameter, 12.7mm thickness, with a lug-to-lug of 47mm. This will suit most wrist sizes. Then 300 meters of water resistance, and powered by the Longines caliber L888.6 automatic movement, giving 72 hours of power reserve. The Longines Legend Diver, once again, finds its roots back in the mid-century, so the brand produced their first dedicated dive watch in 1958, and then in 1959 they released this style, super compressor, internal rotating bezel, operated by a second crown. I like that they didn't lean into the faux patina and nostalgia. The Legend Diver feels clean, legible, and balanced. The second Longines on this list goes back to the more classical style with the Hydoconquest. So they updated this line a few months back, making some big aesthetic updates that were really needed. Available in 42 and 39mm, these are cleaner, a bit more commercially appealing, while still retaining the charm of this line. Spec-wise, this has 300 meters of water resistance and powered by the self-winding caliber L888.5, giving 72 hours of power reserve. At $2,200 for the retail price, I think these are incredibly hard to argue with. Longines is doing their thing, and they're doing it very well. The Sinn U50 needed to be on here because it represents something different from almost every other luxury dive watch. They're not trying to sell you on their history or heritage, they are selling you on engineering. Case proportions, we've got 41mm diameter. This was actually born as the scaled down version of the U1. It still offers 500 meters of water resistance and powered by the ever dependable Sellita SW300-1 automatic movement, giving 56 hours of power reserve. The case material is made of German submarine steel, ultra durable with corrosion resistant properties. Long before Squale became its own watch brand, they were manufacturing dive watch cases for some of Switzerland's biggest names, including Rolex and Blancpain. The 1521 is reliable, functional, fun, and notably not an homage. There is something refreshing about the 1521. It is on the larger side, so 42mm case diameter, but it's also coming with 500 meters of water resistance and powered by the Sellita SW200-1. Any self-respecting dive watch listicle needs to feature Doxa. They aren't copying dive watch history, they helped write it. Jacques Cousteau, probably the most famous diver who's ever lived, had a legendary partnership with Doxa, adopting the Sub 300 dive watch for his Calypso dive teams. He was so impressed by the watch's visibility and features that he negotiated exclusive North American distribution through his US dive company. If it was me buying a Doxa, it would have to be an orange dial. This is the color most associated with them for its underwater visibility properties. If you're on a tighter budget, I'd recommend the Sub 200, retailing for just over £1,000, and if you have a bit more money to play with, the Sub 300. So now moving the next step up in terms of pricing, and this is where we start to hit the big icons and designs that have stood the test of time. Starting with what is possibly my favorite diver of all time, the Omega Seamaster Diver 300. I have been keeping track of this. Omega has not changed the price of this watch, at least not here in the UK, since 2023. It has retailed for £5,600 for 3 years now, on the bog standard variation. That is a long time to go without price increases. Very few models can boast of that. Not even just within Omega. Very few watches can say that. I think the S&P 300 is a modern classic. First introduced in 1993, it gave the Seamaster line an entirely new visual identity, arriving with the now iconic scalloped bezel, wave pattern dial, skeletonized sword hands, twisted lugs, and manual helium escape valve and distinct bracelet. To release a diver in the 1990s that didn't feel derivative of anything else was a huge thing. It was bold and unmistakable, and is one of the reasons why I love this line so much. The build quality is fantastic. It looks great on wrist. I would wager that it is now their most important model, at least from a commercial point of view. And this is all before talking about James Bond. So in 1995, Pierce Brosnan wore the quartz variation as James Bond in GoldenEye. Omega has remained with Bond ever since. I don't care too much about movie deals. I care far more about product. And still, these are hard to beat. Oh, I could talk about these all day long. This needs to become a dedicated video and not the longest section ever. Another one, another dedicated Seamaster video, Brittany? Yes. If the Seamaster is the all-rounder, the Planet Ocean is the heavyweight. Tougher, more technically ambitious, and for a lot of enthusiasts, that's the appeal. These recently received a design refresh, however you feel about that refresh, but these are now available in only 42mm. They look much more angular and a bit more distinct. I feel like this refresh is growing on me. I still miss and prefer the older generation that was discontinued, if I'm being honest. Looking at the specifications, we've got 600 meters of water resistance, stainless steel case, and powered by the Omega caliber 8912, so coaxial METAS certified with 60 hours of power reserve. I have such a soft spot for Panerai, and right now I feel like they're heading in the right direction. I feel like the Submersible is a choice of the heart. The specifications aren't revolutionary, but the design doesn't look like anything else, and it's one of the strongest design identities in modern watchmaking. It's pretty large, so a 44mm cushion case, 13.5mm thickness, 300 meters of water resistance, and inside is Panerai's P900 caliber, delivering a 3-day power reserve. This one isn't for the itty bitty wrist committee or someone who loves the downsizing trend. It's for someone who's maybe feeling a little bit bored of watches or doesn't want an integrated bracelet Genta design. I should say, keeping it to the PAM 01596, this one is $600 over budget, but with Panerai, I think you could ask for a cheeky discount. I would try for 15 to 20%. I'm always trying for 15 to 20% on most brands. Okay, final watch of this category, the Zenith Defy Extreme Diver. Once again, this is technically over budget at $12,300 USD, but this is another brand I would expect a little bit of wiggle room at the AD. I would ask, ooh, can we soften this price a little bit? And I would expect to get about 20% off, and I think that's realistic. Maybe I'm just really cheap and pushy. I don't know. I think this is one of the most underrated watches on this list. So, cold hard facts, this measures in at 42.5mm in diameter, 15.5mm thick, and has 600 meters of water resistance. Movement-wise, we have the El Primero 3620 SC high beat, running at 5 Hz rather than the standard 4 Hz. The high beat rate allows the seconds hand to sweep so buttery, so smoothly, and it also gives a higher degree of accuracy. Although this part of the video is branded as $10,000 plus, we're going to keep it as close to $10,000 as we can. Just if someone has a higher budget and just wants to see what that money could get them. Let's start with one of my favorite releases of 2026 so far. At Watches and Wonders, Grand Seiko unveiled this, the Evolution 9 Ushio UFA Spring Drive. So they shrunk down the size from 43.8mm to 40.8mm, so 3mm smaller, making it so much more wearable for more people. It's fitted with the high-intensity titanium bracelet, now with the micro adjustment on the clasp, and there's a new movement as well, the caliber 9RB1 UFA Ultra Fine Accuracy, meaning this has an accuracy of plus 20 seconds per year. Yes, per year. Great looking watch. It retails for $12,400 USD. I think it's a winner. In the world of iconic divers, there are two that instantly come to mind, the Rolex Submariner, of course, and the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. This watch is available in a few different sizes, but I think the 42mm is the sweet spot. 14mm thick, 300 meters of water resistance, and powered by Blancpain's in-house caliber 1315. The movement is exceptional, using 3 mainspring barrels to deliver a 5-day power reserve, free sprung balance with silicone balance spring for enhanced magnetic resistance, and beautifully finished with anglage, polished bevels, and Geneva stripes. This is the diver that feels like it never compromised. Blancpain never got off mission. They didn't try to become ultra luxurious like Rolex or dilute its brand by focusing on James Bond a little bit too much like someone. It's not a fashion watch, nor has it chased trends. It's just a serious collector piece. I will say, especially for the automatique, the price is steep, starting from $16,700. Ooh, that hurts. If you are seriously interested in buying one of these, I would look into the pre-owned market first. Everyone already knows that I love the Glashutte Original SeaQ. I think I've done at least two reviews on it now, but I think it's one of the strongest luxury divers out there. It is not a household name like Rolex or Omega, but offers finishing and movement quality that I'd say punches above its price. So my favorite variant is the 39.5mm. This has a thickness of 12.2mm, 200 meters of water resistance, and it is powered by their in-house caliber 3911, giving around 40 hours of power reserve. My only nitpick would be that power reserve. I would expect a little bit more for this price point, but other than that, great looking watch, unique dial display, and overall feeling. It is tested to ISO dive watch standards and the German DIN, so the German Institute for Standardization. The SeaQ is not flashy, it's well made, it's not looking for attention, and I think it should be more popular than it is. Speaking of popularity, I mean, the Rolex Submariner had to be on here. Is there anything I can say that hasn't already been said? Without sounding like a broken record, the Submariner remains the benchmark for this category. Sometimes that's to its detriment, like a lot of collectors want something else because there's something too basic about the sub, whereas some people love it for that reason. I would say there is a reason it's been loved since the 1950s. They've got it exactly right. Everything is exactly right. The proportions are magic. Nothing feels out of place. The bracelet melts on wrist. The crown operation is smooth. Everything simply works. I feel like it has been so refined over the last 70 years. There's almost no mistakes left. And that's all the Rolex talking we'll do for today. So I wanted to end here as I think this is the most interesting watch on the list, and it's a collection JLC is still refining and adding to. I think all watch enthusiasts have a soft spot in their heart for Jaeger-LeCoultre, and the Polaris is interesting because it's their sportiest offering. I would say it's not what they're known for, but they're still doing it to a very high degree. So my personal recommendation would be their newest one, the Polaris Date 40, a more wearable size, universal proportions, same movement with the JLC caliber 899, and a few aesthetic tweaks. So the Jaeger-LeCoultre logo has been moved into the inner ring rather than the awkward 12 o'clock placement on the larger model, and the inclusion of Swiss-made just under 6. I really like that they've stuck with the compressor style watch. The heritage is there, as most people will know, with the very beloved Memo Vox, but the style also suits them because it feels sleeker and almost dressier. To me, this is the most JLC interpretation of the dive watch category. One thing I noticed when putting this video together, the higher you go up the price ladder, the less specs seem to matter. That rhymed. For under $1,000, we're talking about value, reliability, capability, but by $10,000, it is exceptional finishing, heritage, wearing experience. But that's a whole different can of worms. For now, these are my favorite dive watches among different price categories. Did I miss your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. Of course you will. We're watch enthusiasts. It's what we do. Thank you so much for your viewership. And now, thank you to the Pope tier patrons. Get their names on the screen. Oh yeah, Pope tier patrons, all tier patrons, anyone who supports this channel in any way, thank you so much. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. And this channel is really run on patrons. It makes it financially viable for me, so thank you. I got a weird tickle in my throat there. Better. So thank you. I hope you keep enjoying the work here. I love making these videos. I think I have the best job in the whole world. And you guys make that possible for me. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.